To a comic who stole his material.
If they're going to steal it, you're better off doing it yourself.
From his button-down mind to the comedy genius behind 2 hit series.
He just makes it look so easy.
To a secret the audience never knew.
Bob was not comfortable doing love scenes.
Bob Newhart, The Last Sane Man. A 2-hour biography special. Next on A&E.
This is Biography. For September 9th, 2001, Biography with Peter Graves.
He can cause roars of laughter in the blink of an eye. Bob Newhart was also able to translate his quirky humor into one of the most successful shows in television history. When Bob Newhart was offered his own show in 1972, he made one demand. He and his TV wife would be childless. Long known for his so-called brainy comedy, Newhart was afraid that having kids would lead to easy and predictable jokes. And nothing about Bob Newhart or his act has ever been easy or predictable. Well, the Bob Newhart Show was a runaway hit, just as his legendary comedy albums had been years earlier. To borrow from John Houseman, the wonderful late actor, Bob Newhart has always insisted on getting his laughs the old-fashioned way. He earns them.
Hello, Bob Newhart.
Bob Newhart here.
This is Bob Newhart.
He learned to stammer and stutter very early on and made a living out of it.
How far had Mr. Adams? We've looked in.
You're quite welcome.
He just wears very well. He's so easy to take.
Pan Am 174. Yeah, you haven't seen United 222 up there anyway.
Truly, just, couldn't keep my hands off him. He's so goddamn adorable. I mean, he really is.
Hi, Bob. Hi, Emily, what's happening?
I think a lot of what's funny on that show is his reacting to the insanity around him.
He has every other comic's respect because he doesn't copy anybody.
When somebody loves you.
I act like that big, loud guy from New York, and he acts like the guy from Midwest that's milking a cow.
I think I'm going to throw up.
He's a comedy legend. I'm driving a legend.
Bob is like the Fred Astaire of comics. He just makes it look so easy.
Bob's been characterized as the last sane man in an insane world.
Why did so many comedians come out of Chicago? Probably because Chicago is such a funny place. It was a political hotbed, but the politicians never took each other or the people seriously, and the people never took the politicians seriously. And so, Chicago itself is it's a satire. The whole area is a satire.
George Robert Newhart was born on September 5, 1929, in the Chicago suburb of Oak Park. His parents, George and Pauline, had played with each other as children and fell in love years later at a church social. George Robert, known to friends and family as Bob, was an only brother to 3 sisters in the devoutly Catholic family.
He lived in this little community of Austin on the west side of Chicago, midway between the inner city and the more upscale suburbs, and so he kind of sat there and observed his world.
Practically in my backyard was where the buses would turn around and head back downtown. And I would see these bus drivers, and one of their favorite things to do was they'd wait for an elderly person to be crossing the tracks, and then they would clang, 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 clang like that, and scare the hell out of the elderly person.
Same situation, discharge the passengers out of the rearview mirror. You notice Mrs. Selkirk running for the bus. Okay, you want to start running again, Mrs. Selkirk? Okay, let's see if Graham's learned anything from Johnson's and Missy. Fine, fine. Did you all see how he slammed the door right in her face that time?
And we spent a lot of time, all of us, on street corners, waiting for buses to come, waiting in freezing cold Chicago winters for buses to come. And you did get the feeling that the bus driver had it in for you.
That's known as your perfect pullout. That's what you always want. Oh, there was one more thing, Graham. I didn't want to bring it up. It wasn't part of the problem, but I couldn't help noticing. You blocked 2 full lanes of traffic that time. Keep that up. That's good thinking.
He was the champion of making people laugh. And I know that Dad always assumed that Bob's humor came from him, because my dad was a knee-slapping kind of joke teller and storyteller, and, you know, in front of everyone, life of the party. And my mother was the one who would just sit back, but then at the end of everything, she'd just make a little like that comment. And we always let my dad think that he was the source of all the humor, but we all knew that it came from my mother.
The only time he ever got angry was if somebody took the last cold Pepsi out of the refrigerator. That was the only time you would feel his wrath. He was truly addicted to it. That's all he drank. He was just so funny, and he was wonderful, has always been wonderful with the young people in his life. He was a terrific big brother.
When Bob was in his teens, and Ginny was not even a year old, he worked for a meat market. He delivered meat. And according to my mother, every trip on the bicycle he would make, he would stop home on the way, run up the stairs, kiss Ginny, come back down the stairs, and finish his meat market runs. Bob had developed a way of reading to her that she loved, so that he was her favorite reader. So he would read her the story, like one page is Charles Boyer, and then another page is John Wayne, and another page is Jimmy Durante.
Bob put his talent for impressions to work by participating in theater arts at St. Ignatius High School.
I met him through an organization in school, within the school, that did plays called the Harlequins. And we were doing The Man Who Came to Dinner as the senior play. And Bob played a character by the name of Banjo.
And I did it as Jimmy Durante. I kind of impersonated Jimmy Durante. They thought that was wonderful.
To help pay for his tuition at school, Bob worked a variety of jobs.
We both worked at the insurance company while we were going to high school and college. He wrote what I call underground newsletter in the office that really was somewhat critical in a funny way of the management. The management, of course, got a hold of a copy, and they started asking people where they got this, and not one of them would say where they got it. I remember one other experience. The manager retired, and they had a big party. And the booze was flowing, and the food was flowing, and of course, Bob and I got a little woozy, shall I say.
Thank you very much, Bruce. Golly, I've been sitting here and listening to Mr. Clayton and Mr. Tipson, and of course Bruce here. And through all of their speeches, one thought kept sort of recurring in my mind. I think I'm going to throw up. I have never heard so much gerbil in all of my life.
He used to break himself up. He probably wouldn't appreciate telling that, but he'd think of something and he'd talk about it and do it, and then he would wind up laughing because he thought it was so funny.
While attending Loyola University in Chicago, Bob kept active in dramatics by joining the Oak Park Playhouse theater group.
Bob and I first met in a little theater group in Oak Park in 1950. He's so funny at the cast parties a lot funnier than he even was on stage. Well, the difference being on stage he was restricted to a part, and off stage he could be Bob Newhart.
People kept telling me that that I should go to New York and try to break into the business, and I always thought that, well, that's fine for you. You know, I'll take a year out of my life and go to New York, and it doesn't work out, and it hasn't cost you anything. So I never took it. I never really took it serious.
I could never understand why Bob majored in commerce in college. I guess he was being a little practical.
You go to college, you get out, you get a profession, and that's what you do. I never believed the Hollywood version of the producer's car breaking down in front of the Oak Park Playhouse and him walking in and saying, "Oh, he's perfect for Hubert in my new play." I never thought that was going to happen.
You're watching Bob Newhart on Biography.
Slowly but relentlessly, the Allies blast their way forward toward the 38th parallel in Korea.
In 1951, Bob Newhart graduated from Loyola University. A year later, Uncle Sam wanted him.
You know, we were all drafted during the Korean War, and Bob was lucky and was stationed with 6th Army in San Francisco.
I had spent at that point 22 winters in Chicago, and I was on the West Coast for the first time, and vowed that the first time I got $300 together, I was going to come back to California, because I didn't want to go through another Chicago winter or summer, you know. But I think the Army was the basis for the submarine command.
Man, I've been pretty lax as far as discipline is concerned. I try to run what's known in the Navy as a loose ship. Golly, I don't think there's really anyone that enjoys a gag more than I do, certainly. However, I'd like the executive officer returned. It's been over 2 weeks now, man. And we've looked in the torpedo tubes and in your lockers. We were very fortunate you didn't happen to choose the navigational officer or the radio man or someone real important like that. Looking back on the mutiny,
After Bob's stint in the Army, he returned to Chicago and his parents' home. Bob attended Loyola Law School. However, he and the school mutually decided to part company after a year and a half.
He was home living with us still on Mason in his late 20s, because I think he decided somewhere along the line to really give the business a shot. He could make a living as an accountant.
But obviously he was not real interested in making a career out of accounting, and it was like, Mom, what's going to happen to him? What's he going to do? Does he ever date, Mom? And so on.
Bob never, as I recall, dated. He played a good game of poker and things like that, but no, he wasn't big on women. He was just sort of a low-key kind of a guy.
My friends were getting married, buying houses, buying cars, and I wasn't doing anything. And there was a point where I thought to myself, you have really screwed up major, you know. I mean, look at what you've done to your life. But there was always something on the horizon that was holding, you know, maybe this will be the one that will make the difference.
He would practice all of his routines on Mom and I. He had a great big old reel-to-reel tape recorder, and we used to watch a lot of TV together.
Jack, I know you've got a wonderful cast, but you're supposed to be the star, and you're not doing anything in the script.
I'm not?
No, listen to the lines you've got in the script. Well, but.
Now cut that out.
Yeah, I skipped that one. That's
I love to watch comedians. I just love to watch them work. Watch the Ed Sullivan Show and see them, whoever it was, Sid Caesar, name it, Jackie Gleason, anybody. Certainly influenced you in one way or another.